Now, we were attacked. The next morning, Franklin Delano Roosevelt got Congress to declare war on Japan. There was only one person that voted against it there, that they didn't want to get into the war. All the rest of them voted there that we would have revenge, we would declare war on Japan itself. Now, up to that time, the men were earning the income. The women were staying at home taking care of the kids. Now, the next day, and the days after that, blocks long, people were enlisting in the various services. We were attacked. The country was united. Everybody stepped in. They had victory gardens. They had rationing, gas rationing, cigarette rationing, meat rationing, butter rationing, everything, but everybody got in the act because the country was united. We were attacked there, and so they were doing their part. Even the kids would go around picking up tin, picking rubber, metal, anything for the war effort itself. The country was united itself. Now, up to that time, like I mentioned there, the women were staying at home, but now they were taking care of the kids. Take care of the kids, and they had something else to do. They joined the war effort. They started building planes, they started building ships and tanks and guns, ammunition, everything we needed there. You've probably seen pictures there. We can do it there. That's a woman having an arm like this. We can do it, and they did. They furnished us with everything we need. They would become welders. They'd done everything. I had two sisters that were Rosie. That's what they're called, Rosie the Riveters. Even though it's various things there, they call them Rosie the Riveters, because they furnished us with what we needed, and they furnished us what we needed, and that's how we won the war, because we had things replaced there. Japan did not have the people to replace whatever they needed. Japan had if they're going to win a war, they had to do it in a hurry, because they didn't have the resources there to supply whatever was needed itself. My ship was built in 1916. We do 15 knots downhill with the tailwind. We didn't have the speed there, so use this for fire support. My ship was in invasion of Attu, Kiska, Macon, Kwajalein, and Wetak, Palu, Saipan, Guam, and Philippines. Fire support, supporting our troops that were fighting the enemy on shore itself. Now, something happened there. Japan had been running roughshod over the whole Pacific there. They needed a little more morale, so a little pep up. They found a man by the name of Jimmy Doolittle. He was an aircraft colonel. They decided they would bomb Japan. How? By being on an aircraft carrier. What happened there, you know, a plane that needs a lot of room there, taking off and landing here. They had a device there. They got 16 bombers, B-25 bombers there. Trained them on short fields and all. What the plan was that the bombers would take off, even though it's just a short distance, because your aircraft carriers are only 800 feet long, 900 feet long at the most. They got a device there, well, not really a device there, but they practiced on taking off. They weren't going to land on aircraft carrier. You could need a lot more room to land on. They were going to just take off the aircraft carrier. They would bomb Japan, continue on to China, and that's where they'd land there on fields that would be prepared for them there. 16 bombers. No one knew anything about it itself there. They were supposed to get within 600 miles, probably a little less than that there, from Japan, and take off, bomb into Japan, Tokyo, and some of the other places there, and continue on. They did detect it early, so they had to take off early. They didn't get as close as they normally would be, so they did take off. They did bomb Japan, continued on. Some of them didn't make it all the way because the fuel was short there. Some of them did get to Japan, get to China itself there. They didn't do much damage, but they did two things. It helped the morale of the United States. We were doing something, we were fighting back. Plus, Japan saw that they were invaded, so they figured, well, maybe they're not as safe as they would be. And so they pulled some of their troops, some of their ships and stuff back to the mainland. That made less that we had to contend with when we started taking over the islands itself. So it did those two things. About a month later, about a month and a half later, they had what was a turning point of the war. It's the Battle of Midway. Japan had figured there that they'd wipe out the United States by way of Pearl Harbor itself. It did not succeed at December 7th, 1941. They figured if they'd take over Midway, they'd have a stepping stone, a place for planes to take off and land there, and they'd be able to do what they weren't able to do on December 7th, 1941. We had feelers out. We broke the code, and fortunately was able to wipe out all four of the aircraft carriers that were sunk, Japanese aircraft carriers that were sunk in the Battle of Midway. Those were four of the six that attacked Pearl Harbor itself. So the four main aircraft carriers were sunk. The big ones were sunk. A lot of their pilots, because they didn't have any place to land, because when the aircraft carriers were sunk there, the pilots had no place to land there, so a lot of the good pilots were lost there at the Battle of Midway also. It's the turning point of the war, because from then on we started fighting back itself there. Like I mentioned, my ship was in all the various invasions. The first invasion of the Philippines was at Leyte. Leyte itself has the easternmost part of the Philippine Islands there. It's a huge harbor itself, and that a lot of the ships were in port there, cruising around. The only ones that were stopped, the ones that were unloading, giving supplies to the people on land itself there. Now, we're all at battle stations there, and I mentioned there that Battle of Midway, a lot of their good pilots were lost. It started something called kamikazes. Kamikaze planes or pilots are trained to take off. Don't worry too much about landing, because they're not going to land itself, they're going to die for the emperor. I'm steering this 33,000-ton battleship there, steering this way. Got the word there, a kamikaze plane hit a destroyer, the Admiral Reed, over in this direction. Everybody's in battle stations, so some of your armament, especially your torpedoes, went off. Torpedoes from that destroyer started coming back towards us. They said, look out, it's reported, look, torpedo coming towards us. The captain says, hard right rudder, steer for that torpedo, give it as small a target as possible. Now a car goes around the corner, it goes right like this. A ship goes around like this. There's no way I could turn that battleship around there. And look, and here comes the wake from a torpedo coming at us. I got a hold of a bar over here and got the rudder over just hard as I can. Hold on, here it comes. It went right underneath us. Evidently, when the ship got hit and when the torpedo was set off, it was tilted enough, it went a little bit deeper. Otherwise, we've been torpedoed by one of our own torpedoes there. Next thing there, that night, after that you probably heard of the Battle of Surigao Strait and Leyte Gulf. Japanese fleet was coming up from the south, coming up in between the islands itself. Coming up to the island there itself, and we're up in the harbor. The Japanese fleet figured they'd come up and wipe out all the ships in the harbor itself in Leyte Gulf. We got the word on them. They come in, the radar got to pick them off, and they're narrow. They'd go like this. The only one of those ships that could shoot at us was the lead ship. We called crossing the T. It's some tactician's dream. All the ships there, they got our battleships. There's 6 of us. Battleships back and forth there, and the ships got in range. We wiped out the whole Japanese fleet down there that night. The next invasion was Lingayen Gulf, which is in the island that is Manila, and where that island of Mogadore is and all. watched General MacArthur wading ashore. He changed clothes there before they took pictures of him wading ashore, so he looked a little bit sharper. But I saw him wading ashore. By that time, our guns would not shoot straight. They sent us back to the States there, sent us back to San Francisco, to Bethlehem Steel, get new guns there, because if by the time we got new guns there, it'd be time for the invasion of Japan itself, because the next ones after the Philippines was Iwo Jima and then Okinawa. Oh, it's end of July. This is 1945. End of July, we're on our way back to Okinawa to meet up with the others. By that time, we'd already got the island of Iwo Jima and Okinawa back from them. So something happened there on our way back to Okinawa. August 6th, he dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. 3 days later, August 9th, he dropped an atomic bomb on Nagasaki. 3 days later, August 12th, we got in Okinawa. All the other ships are there. We already had the island itself, and we're in there making preparations for invading Japan itself. 8:30 that night, the Japanese plane came in with lights after dark, with its lights on, aimed its torpedo at the closest big ship it saw, was the battleship Pennsylvania. I told you the living compartment, the quartermaster's, is back by the rudder. That's where the propeller, where the torpedo hit. I decided to go write a letter up. I was up in the wheelhouse writing a letter. The torpedo hit in the living compartment, the quartermasters. I had 26 quartermasters. I lost 20 of them that night. The next morning, Japanese asked for peace. They towed us in a shallow ground in case we'd sink. We'd just sink in the mud. We was able to stay afloat. They signed the peace treaty while we're staying afloat. Otherwise, we'd have been in Tokyo Bay for the signing of the peace treaty itself. When the torpedo hit us, it wiped out the propellers. We had 4 propellers, 2 on the right and 2 on the left. Ones on the right were gone. That's where the torpedo hit. Ones on the left there, one of them was good and one was not so good. They towed us to Guam, put us in a dry dock down there, partially in dry dock, because we're 608 feet long. Patched us up, and in fact, by that time, the war is over. They sent us back to Bremerton, Washington. There, we're already damaged. We're all by ourselves. We got about 400 miles east of Guam. We started having problems. That one propeller on the left side, it wasn't working so good. Now, all big ships have deep sea divers on them. We put divers over the side and see what you can do with that propeller. Meantime, sharks come around there because it's still parts of the body still in the ship of my men. We pulled the divers back out of the water, put boats in the water with the Marines, because all big ships have Marines on them. Put Marines in there with rifles, keep the sharks away from the divers there while they worked on the propellers. We came back to Bremerton, Washington. Now they'd already seen what happened there at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Now they want to find out what damage it have on ships. Our ship is already damaged. By that time, we got just a skeleton crew because we didn't need so many people. The war is over there, and a lot of people getting discharged and leaving there.